What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about OnyxCoin today, XCN USD. It is the 19th day of January, and here we are sitting at about $0.00722 with 8 hours and 10 minutes left in the day. Hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here, and let's get into it, okay? For the predominant amount of this time, I've assumed that we would not break down to these levels, and that instead we would break out and move higher. I was expecting this to be a bull flag that we broke out from to the upside. We still very well could be in a bull flag, by the way, and I think we are. I just didn't assume that we'd come down this low. However, throughout most of this time, if not every single day that we've addressed here, we have addressed that a daily close below this line here, will likely lead us to something around this area for resistance, or this area here for support. Support at prior resistance. We're in that zone now. If I use a couple of these white lines here, from this point here to this point here, we're in that zone now. We're on the upper ends of that zone. We can go lower. It's totally fine if we go lower. But I haven't made a video since about this time yesterday, and we were all the way up here yesterday. Hopefully, because we've been talking about the 00838 level being important, if we close below there, it means bad things happen. Hopefully, you've at least been prepared for that mentally. Whenever you saw the daily close happen yesterday below this line, hopefully you were prepared for what's happening today, right? We're down 9%. It's not fun. It's never ideal to be wrong. We're calling for the upside and it went against us. It's never ideal to be wrong, but at least we were prepared. At least this is more or less exactly what we expected if we were to be wrong, right? Or if I was to be wrong. Not assuming what your opinions are. Just what my opinions were. Anyways, from a low to a high, we have broken below the 382. We close back above it the next day. This is generally a very powerful signal. I'm so surprised that we found resistance here and came back down. I'm not really that surprised that we broke below the 382 because, again, rejecting the 236, coming back to the 382 for a second time, it's very uncommon to bounce in these situations. I mean, you almost always go down, but I have seen OnyxCoin do this exact thing before it bounced, so I was kind of holding out on that. But now we're on the wrong side of the stick. The next time that we get something like this where we pull back to the 382, reject the 236, and then we're at the 382, I'm going to call for lower prices and then we'll bounce. I won't be on the right side of it ever. So just remember that for the next time. But all jokes aside, here we are at the 0.5. It's a totally acceptable area to find support. Statistically speaking, the more likely area would be the golden ratio just based off the fibs. But we look at the price action itself, this is a pretty good area to find support. Prior resistance, 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 resistance all the way through there. Just below this area of support here, right around that area of support there. I mean, and your 0.5 fib, I mean, it's a relatively good area to find support. We can go lower, but I do wonder if we go any lower or too much lower from here. You know, like right now, we've got this kind of bull flag idea preserved. But if we go lower, too much lower right now, it's not really going to look like a bull flag no matter how you cut it, right? No matter how you try to measure it up. Maybe it's not a bull flag. Maybe we need to let that go. And maybe holding on to that idea doesn't open our minds for the obvious choice, which is that we will go down to 00638 to 00587. I don't know. My assumption is that we can, and perhaps we do, find support here. But if we don't, we will likely go down another 11 to 18%. So if we do drop from here, if we don't find support, 11 to 18% of a drop. What I will mention with all this is that, again, when we pumped, we had spectacular volume. Nothing came close. Nothing has come close to that level of volume since April of 2025. Okay. As we move down, there's been absolutely no volume at all. It's the same message here, as it was all the way throughout here and here. There's no more sellers. There's really no more sellers that are here. The only pressure that's coming in for OnyxCoin is buying pressure. So when we move sideways, when that buying pressure is not here, default, we're going to move down slowly, very, very slowly. But what takes weeks to move down only takes days to evaporate, right? What takes months to move down only takes days to evaporate. So whenever it is time to move up higher, we will move higher. One last thing that I will say before we get into the short-term stuff about this area is that the fact that we've moved down has hurt our probabilities, has hurt our chances of seeing this next phase higher going to 3 cents or above, right? From here, it kind of made sense to see a move like that. From here, it's not that it can't happen, it's just less likely to happen. To me, the more likely thing now would be to go to the 2 cent level and maybe even just above there, right? Something between this high and this closing high here, 1.85 cents to 2.7 cents, whatever, something in that range, versus 3 cents and beyond, like we were considering for a good bit of this time, right? We take a high from back in January of 2025 to here, a low in December of last year. What we've done is actually a very common procedure when working our way higher. This is another thing that will make perfect sense out of finding support exactly where we are now. Is that we went above the 382, you wicked there, you closed below it, and now we're back at the 236. If we come back up to this 382, the statistical probability of going to the golden ratio is high. Very, very high. And I live in Colorado. We know a thing or two about things that are very, very high. The probability is very, very high that we would go to the golden ratio zone here if we return to the 382. So effectively, from here, remember, for a lot of this time, I was saying if we close a day below 00838, we are condemned to this level at least, if not lower. Well, from here, if we close above, and when we close above 01057, we close above basically 1 cent at that 382, we are golden for this golden ratio move, which from here is 161% at a minimum. 161% at a minimum. And it probably, when it happens, it'll be fast, right? It'll be just like this. But from the 382, if you're waiting for confirmation, that's still an 80% move. And let's say you're waiting for the day to close, so it's a little bit higher. That's still like a 60% move. You could be late to the party. You still got a very, very strong chance of getting a very significant move there. And that level, again, is at the 382, which is technically at 1.063 cents. That level is the next one to watch. It's very common to go from your 382 to your 236 to your golden ratio, and that's all we're calling for. It's a very standard schematic. If you've been watching my channel for a month or years, you know this schematic, right? And I call it a schematic because I don't know it's basically a schematic, right? I took that word from when people talk about Wyckoff schematics, right? This is basically a schematic for fibs. Whenever you have a retracement, one of the most common things that I look for, this is I don't know what I would call it, but if this quote unquote schematic had a name, if this template had a name, I would call it just like the standard setup. This is like your I don't know. It's just like standard protocol here. Going from the 382, 236, golden ratio, 0.5, 382 area for support, 786, 886. Then you consolidate at the golden ratio, whatever, and then you get the real breakout. Like typically that's what happens. I say typically, it doesn't always have to be that way. Maybe we find resistance to the golden ratio and then we blast through the roof. I mean, it doesn't have to be that perfect all the way through, but that's just an idea of how it might work here. So I would very much expect that we do find support here and that we do move higher. I guess I am calling for support here, where I would probably normally be more likely to call for support at the golden ratio zone. I think I'm seeing enough congruence here, enough prior areas of support, significance in the price, significance in the fibs on the 236 and the 0.5 here, and not a lot of volume on the way down. I'm seeing enough where I do believe that this could be the low and that we do move higher. We might not go below 007. But I do want to look at the short-term stuff and get into that, and then we'll zoom out. Now, all that just to get to the short-term stuff. Imagine you were here just for the short-term stuff. You're like, dude, finally. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, look at it, right? You broke out. I was expecting a little like fake out and then we'd move up. But you broke out with some volume, and as you progress lower, there's just been no volume. You guys, nobody wants to sell. Like that's the reality of this. Nobody wants to sell. There's no selling pressure. Yeah, we're probably going to come up in a very short amount of time, guys. Very, very short amount of time. Bullish divergence on the RSI, yes. Bullish divergence on the MACD, bullish divergence on the stochastics. Well, that's a good sign. 4-hour time frame. Oversold as hell on the RSI. In fact, you are the most oversold that you've been since December. I'll do you one better. Since December 17th, about a month ago. It's the most oversold you've been. Whenever you were oversold that oversold last time, that was a low at which you formed a double bottom from. Did we move up immediately? I mean, technically, yes. But we didn't like really get the move up until like a half month later. If this is the low, does that mean that we move up right now? It could. I mean, we could. And OnyxCoin's not afraid to do that. But maybe we dilly-dally a little bit. You know, it doesn't have to be an immediate thing just because we found our low here. Still very oversold. We're typically not this oversold. Actually, and what I will even say here is when we got this oversold, we actually did technically see a slightly lower low. So no, we did not move up immediately first. When we got this low before back here, when we were this low, was that the low? No, you did go a little bit lower. We're not technically as low as we were back here, or technically as low as we were back here, but we're still pretty low. The idea that we could go a little bit lower is definitely on the table. It's okay if we do, but I wouldn't expect that we go too much lower. I wouldn't expect that we do. Let's see. Yeah, maybe down to like maybe we do a slight quick wick below 007, maybe, but I don't think we go too much lower. I would expect if it does happen, if we do go lower, it'd be a quick reaction and then we come back up. That's what I would expect. And if I'm wrong, worst case scenario, we go down here, we recover still, and it's fine. Whatever, not a big deal. 4-hour MACD has been red as hell for a long time, building bearish momentum here. Not a good look on the MACD, not a good look on the stochastics, not a good look on the RSI, but they are all kind of oversold and depleted to the downside. So I think that there is some reversion that's appropriate to be called for here, and I would expect that we do revert back to the upside. Daily time frame, right at the 50. I mean, if we were to move all the way back up, we're down 9%. If we were to move all the way back up and close green today, we'd actually have a bounce right off the 50. Wouldn't that be nice? We got 8 hours left, guys. There's enough time left in the day where that can happen for sure. That actually looked really good. The MACD, we can afford to come down and we still look good. The stochastics are reset entirely. Overall, on the daily time frame, we're in a very bullish posturing. Of course we are. But the short-term stuff, I'm not really getting anything that's conclusive that's suggesting that we're at the low or that we're not at the low. We are at some weak readings, so we're very near the low if we're not at it. But is 007.1, is that the absolute low of this move? Yes, maybe. No, maybe. It's hard to say. I could see it happening. I'd have no problem calling for it, but if we go just that much lower, I'm not going to have my feelings hurt. Or even a little bit lower than that, I'm not going to have my feelings hurt. You know, it's really not going to be that intense if we do go lower from here. So one way or another, we should be recovering. One way or another, I do believe we are on a path higher, and that path should, I think, take us probably up to this 1.8 to 2.2 cent area. That's what makes sense to me. I'll see you guys on the next one. Hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. Take care of yourselves, all right? Bye-bye.